So you finally sit down to do the work, right? Like the actual needle-moving deep work.
Right.
You've got your coffee, you open your laptop, the screen glows, and your intention in that exact second is just pure focus. You are completely ready to conquer the day.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great feeling right up until the moment it shatters.
Yeah.
Because usually you hit one tiny moment of friction in your work, and suddenly your hand reaches out almost on autopilot.
And 3 minutes later, it's like waking up from a trance.
Exactly.
You're staring at your phone, checking the weather for a city you don't even live in, or looking up, I don't know, the cast of a movie you saw 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the instant you realize what you're doing, the guilt just sets in.
Oh, it really does.
You sit there staring at the screen, telling yourself, I have absolutely no willpower. I am fundamentally undisciplined.
And that is an incredibly heavy burden to carry, especially when you frame it as a character flaw.
Yeah.
I mean, you internalize every single lost hour as a personal failure.
Right, but reviewing the stack of sources we have today for this deep dive, that guilt actually seems completely misplaced.
It really is.
Yeah, we're looking at research from environmental psychology, neuroscience, and productivity studies, and the sources point to a massive paradigm shift. And that's our mission today. To show you that your struggle to focus isn't a lack of discipline, it's a structural problem with your environment.
A huge structural problem.
So we're going to explore this concept called focus architecture, which is basically the idea that you can build a space that doesn't require willpower at all.
Which is desperately needed when you look at the sheer scale of the invisible theft happening to us.
The theft of our time.
Yeah, the data indicates that the average person loses over 2 hours of deep focus every single day to environmental cues they aren't even consciously aware of.
2 hours.
2 hours every day. It is so much easier to label yourself as lazy than it is to recognize that the physical and digital spaces you are sitting in are, actively engineered to interrupt you.
2 hours of lost time a day is staggering. But reading through the neuroscience sources, it actually makes sense when you look at the biological hardware we bring to the desk, right?
Right.
I was really fascinated by this concept of selective attention, because we just walk around assuming our brains can handle infinite streams of information.
We do, yeah.
But selective attention is actually a strictly limited, finite pool of mental energy, isn't it?
Precisely. Yeah, selective attention is basically your brain's filtering system. It's the mechanism that allows you to lock onto a single task while suppressing everything else.
Okay.
But you have to view this through an evolutionary lens to really understand why it fails us today.
How so?
Well, this filtering system evolved to keep early humans alive, right? Its primary job was scanning the horizon to spot a physical threat, like, a predator shifting in the bushes while you were trying to forage for food.
So it's a survival tool,
Yeah,
not a productivity tool.
exactly. It wants to be distracted by new information because new information used to mean survival.
Okay, the analogy that came to mind while I was reading the research is a club bouncer.
Well, I like that.
Like your brain's attention system is this massive, tough bouncer who spent his whole career training to look out for bears and saber-toothed tigers. But now we've put that exact same bouncer at the door of our modern work life, and instead of a bear, he is being swarmed by thousands of tiny gnats.
Yes.
The smartwatch vibrations, the email banners, the 30 open browser tabs.
And that bouncer is entirely overwhelmed. Because every single one of those gnats is demanding a sliver of that finite cognitive bandwidth.
Wow.
The brain literally cannot process them all simultaneously,
Right.
which completely dismantles the whole myth of multitasking.
Right. The sources are pretty aggressive about that.
Yeah, when you think you are multitasking, what your brain is actually doing is rapid task switching.
So you're just violently bouncing your spotlight of attention back and forth, like email, spreadsheet, text message, back to spreadsheet.
Exactly. And that bouncing is not free. Every single time your brain shifts its focus from one context to another, it exacts what neuroscientists call a switching cost.
A switching cost.
Yeah, it takes measurable metabolic energy and time for your prefrontal cortex, which is the area handling all your complex planning, to drop the rules of the spreadsheet, load up the rules of the text message, and then reverse the entire process just seconds later.
Which explains so much about the modern workday, doesn't it?
Oh, totally.
Because when we get to 5 o'clock and feel completely physically and mentally exhausted, we usually assume it's because we got so much done. But the reality is we might not have produced much actual work at all.
We just paid a massive, exhausting tax and switching costs all day.
Yeah. And the sources point out that visual clutter alone seems to trigger this tax. Just having a messy desk forces your brain to constantly spend energy ignoring the mess.
Visual clutter acts as a constant neurological drain. Your brain is running a background program simply to filter out those irrelevant physical objects from your visual field.
And it's not just the objects we can see right in front of us either.
No, it's not.
I want to dig into the psychology of what happens after we look away from a distraction. Because the sources introduced this phrase, attention residue, and it honestly changed how I view my entire workflow.
Attention residue is such a brilliant framing for a very, very insidious problem.
Yeah.
The concept is that when you shift your focus away from something, say you just quickly glance at a stressful email but decide to reply later, or you look at an unfinished project sitting on the corner of your desk.
Which I do all the time.
Right, we all do. But your focus doesn't detach cleanly. A literal piece of your cognitive capacity stays tethered to that unresolved item.
So you're dragging this invisible tail of thoughts behind you into the next task.
Exactly.
Like I might be physically looking at my report, but my brain is still partially chewing on that email.
And the cost of that lingering residue is immense. There's a widely cited study from the University of California, Irvine, that actually quantified this.
Oh, right, the timing one.
Yeah. They monitored workers and found that after a significant interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully return to the original depth of focus on a task.
Over 20 minutes to recover from one glance at an email.
Yes.
That is genuinely terrifying.
Yeah.
If you work in an environment where you get pinged every 10 minutes,
Ow.
you are literally never achieving deep focus. You are perpetually in the shallow end of the pool.
You're just skimming the surface all day.
But let me push back on this a bit, or at least play devil's advocate on how we typically try to solve this, right?
Right, sure.
If I know my phone is the main culprit for these interruptions, what if I just put it face down on my desk and switch it to silent? No buzzing, no visual notifications. If the screen is hidden, I should be fine.
It seems perfectly logical, yeah. If you can't see the target, it shouldn't distract you. But researchers at Carnegie Mellon University ran a fascinating study that just completely destroys that assumption.
Okay, how so?
They brought people into a lab to take complex cognitive tests and manipulated one single variable. Just the location of their smartphones.
Just the location.
Yeah. For some, the phone was in another room. For others, it was in a pocket or a bag. And for the last group, the phone was face down on the desk in front of them, completely powered off.
And the people with the powered off phones on the desk still performed course.
Significantly worse on tests measuring working memory and fluid intelligence.
Wow.
The researchers actually coined the term brain drain to describe this. The mere physical proximity of the device measurably reduces your cognitive capacity.
Wait, even when it's off, how is the brain draining energy on a piece of plastic and glass that isn't doing anything?
Because your brain knows what that device represents.
Okay.
It is a portal to infinite social connection, dopamine, novel information. So even if the phone is off, your brain has to dedicate a portion of its selective attention to actively suppressing the urge to pick it up.
Oh, I see.
You are running a background script that says, don't touch the phone, don't touch the phone. And that active inhibition requires the exact same mental fuel you need to solve the complex
Silence is not the cure. Distance is the cure.
Distance is the only cure.
If just having a dormant phone nearby burns up our willpower battery, it forces you to reevaluate so many other common work habits.
It really does.
For instance, the sources dissect the classic habit of working with a television on in the background. A lot of people swear by it, claiming the background noise helps them dial in.
Yeah, it's a very common coping mechanism. Usually it's deployed to drown out other unpredictable noises in a house or an office.
Right.
But the research is super clear here. While steady instrumental noise like a fan or ambient beats can help, unpredictable sounds, and specifically speech-based sounds like a TV show or a podcast, are highly destructive to focus.
The sources single out language processing as the culprit here, don't they?
They do.
When your brain hears speech, even if it's just two people talking on a TV show behind you, your auditory processing centers are biologically hardwired to decode that language.
Right.
You cannot tell your brain to simply ignore human speech. It will automatically try to eavesdrop and parse the meaning, which forcefully yanks your attention away from whatever you're trying to write or analyze.
Exactly. You are forcing your brain to do two highly complex language tasks at the exact same time. It's an unwinnable battle, which leads directly into why trying to simply power through these environments is a doomed strategy.
Because of willpower.
Right. Willpower is not a character trait. It is a depleting physiological resource. It acts exactly like a battery that drains with every decision you make and every single distraction you suppress throughout the day.
And when that battery gets low, we fall into what the research calls the paralysis loop.
Yes, the paralysis loop.
This was a huge light bulb moment for me. The paralysis loop is this toxic combination of perfectionism, procrastination, and an environment full of easy escapes.
Oh, it's the worst.
You sit down to do a hard task, and the perfectionism makes you anxious. Your brain wants to escape that anxiety, and because your phone is right there or your desk is a mess and offers a great excuse to, organize instead of work, you take the escape hatch.
And the longer you delay, the more the anxiety builds, which then burns through your willpower battery even faster. It's this vicious cycle that has absolutely nothing to do with laziness and everything to do with emotional regulation and environmental triggers.
And our biological rhythms play heavily into how fast that battery drains, too.
They do, yeah.
The sources spend time on lifestyle factors outside the office, like how late afternoon caffeine completely disrupts sleep architecture, which in turn ruins your brain's ability to filter distractions the very next day.
Right.
Or how highly processed foods cause blood sugar spikes and crashes that make the temptation of easy escapes just irresistible.
And that physiological aspect explains the dreaded afternoon slump.
Oh, the 2 p.m. wall.
Exactly. Many people assume they just lack discipline after 2 p.m. when their focus evaporates. But that slump is a natural biological dip in your circadian rhythm.
Okay.
For most adults, peak cognitive alertness naturally occurs in the mid-morning. If you try to force your most complex brain-heavy work at 3 p.m., you are literally fighting your own biology.
You're swimming upstream.
Yeah, the goal is to schedule your deep work during your natural peak, so your environment and your body are working together.
Okay, so if willpower is a depleting battery, and our brains are incredibly sensitive to both visual clutter and hidden digital triggers,
Yeah.
the only logical solution is to build a workspace that completely removes the need for willpower.
That's the goal.
Let's dig into the blueprint, because the sources lay out a 10-step guide to focus architecture, starting with the physical environment.
The foundation of this architecture is creating what they call a single-use zone. This is vital.
Right, the idea that you cannot work from your bed, then move to the living room couch, and then finish up at the kitchen table.
Exactly. You must designate one specific physical location, even if it's just one specific chair at a table that is used exclusively for focused work.
Just work.
Just work. No scrolling social media in that chair, no paying bills, no eating lunch. This leverages classical behavioral conditioning.
Like Pavlov.
Just like Pavlov's dogs learn to associate a bell with food, your brain will slowly learn to associate that specific physical posture and location with deep concentration. Over time, simply sitting in that chair acts as a neurological trigger to enter a state of focus.
You're training your environment to do the heavy lifting for you.
Exactly.
And part of that physical setup is the phone exile method,
Yes.
which goes right back to the Carnegie Mellon study. Don't just silence the phone. You have to put it in another room, or at least inside a drawer where it is completely out of your visual field.
Right.
You have to create physical distance to protect your cognitive capacity.
Distance is completely non-negotiable. And alongside exiling the phone, you must ruthlessly clear your visual field. Remove the sticky notes for unrelated tasks, the mail you need to open, the coffee mugs from yesterday. Give your prefrontal cortex a break from constantly filtering out that clutter.
I noticed the blueprint also includes an environment reset at the end of the day to maintain this.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, you just spend 2 minutes returning that single-use zone back to a clean, neutral state before you log off. That way, when you sit down the next morning, you aren't immediately hit with decision fatigue about what to clean up before you can even start working.
It's a brilliant preemptive strike against procrastination, but we can't just stop at the physical space.
Right, the digital space.
The digital environment is arguably more dangerous. Your desk might be pristine, but if your laptop screen looks like a chaotic disaster zone, your brain is still going to drain. This is where the single tab rule comes into play.
Closing every single browser tab except the one you actively need for the task at hand.
Yep.
Which sounds completely terrifying to anyone who currently has 30 tabs open. But when you connect it back to attention residue, it makes perfect sense. Every single open tab, even the ones hidden behind your main window, represents an unresolved loop.
Exactly.
It's a nagging reminder of unfinished business that is quietly consuming your background attention.
It is the digital equivalent of a messy desk. And the sources highlight incredible real-world examples of this, like Sarah, a marketing coordinator in Ohio.
Oh, I loved her story.
Yeah, she was caught in the classic paralysis loop, feeling like she was working 10-hour days but getting nothing substantive accomplished. She had her phone on her desk, 2 monitors filled with open tabs, and notebooks scattered everywhere.
And she blamed her own work ethic. She thought she just wasn't trying hard enough.
Most people do.
But when she learned about focus architecture, she stopped trying to grit her teeth and just made structural changes. She exiled the phone to a different room, instituted the single tab rule, and cleared her visual space.
And the results were immediate.
Yeah, within 2 weeks, she was completing her daily tasks in half the time. She didn't suddenly gain superhuman discipline. She simply stopped forcing her brain to fight her environment.
Addition by subtraction. When you remove the friction of filtering, the work flows naturally.
Yeah.
But to support the single tab rule, the blueprint also insists on a strict notification blackout.
Right.
This doesn't just mean turning off the pinging sounds. You have to disable the visual banners that slide in from the corner of your screen.
Because even a silent visual alert for a new email pulls your eyes away for 2 seconds and boom, you just incurred a 20-minute switching cost penalty.
Exactly.
But if you shut off all notifications, the anxiety of missing an important message can actually become its own distraction, right?
It can, yeah.
So to counter that, the sources suggest time boxing.
Time boxing is huge. Setting a visible, defined boundary for your focus. You set a timer for 25 or 50 minutes, and you commit to absolute focus just for that window. It calms the anxious part of your brain because it provides a guarantee. It says, you aren't ignoring the world forever. You can check all your messages the absolute second this timer hits 0.
It makes the deep work feel temporary and safe.
Right.
I also love the emphasis on transition rituals. The idea that you shouldn't just slam your laptop open and expect your brain to instantly shift from relaxed weekend mode to intense analytical mode.
The brain responds beautifully to transition signals. Building a short, repeatable action before you start a deep work block is incredibly powerful.
Like what?
It could be the physical act of making a specific type of tea, writing down your one primary goal on a fresh piece of paper, or simply taking 3 slow, deliberate breaths.
Just something to signal the shift.
Yeah, when done consistently, neuroplasticity binds that physical action to the cognitive state of focus. The ritual literally becomes the key that turns the ignition in your brain.
And just as you need an on-ramp, the sources talk about designing an off-ramp, designing for the return.
Oh, this is so important.
At the very end of your focus session, instead of just abruptly closing your laptop, you take 30 seconds to leave a note for your future self. You write down exactly where you stopped, what you were thinking, and what the very next specific action is.
That tiny habit completely bypasses the 20-minute reentry cost we discussed earlier.
Wow, really?
Yeah, when you sit back down hours or days later, your brain doesn't have to burn energy trying to rebuild the context of the project from scratch. The note gives you an immediate, frictionless on-ramp right back into the flow state.
We see this working for James, the business owner mentioned in the research. He used to spend entire afternoons agonizing over weekly reports, constantly distracted. He implemented just the single tab rule and the phone exile method, and suddenly he was finishing those same reports in under an hour.
Incredible, right?
When you eliminate the easy escape routes, your brain actually prefers to just do the work.
It creates a pathway of least resistance toward productivity rather than away from it.
I do want to ground this in reality, though. Reading through this 10-step blueprint, it sounds absolutely idyllic if you have a pristine, quiet home office with a mahogany desk and a door that locks.
Right, which most of us don't have.
Exactly. What about the listener who works in a deeply chaotic, shared space? What if my single-use zone is literally just a corner of a messy kitchen table and there are kids running around or roommates making lunch?
It's the most common roadblock people face, and it's where many give up on the idea of deep focus entirely. But the research is actually highly encouraging here.
Okay, good.
It proves that overly complex productivity setups or expensive noise-canceling pods are not the answer. In fact, complex systems usually become a new form of distraction.
Oh, for sure. You spend more time tweaking the system than working.
Right. When it comes to focus architecture, simplicity always beats sophistication. Your brain doesn't require total absolute silence or a magazine cover office to achieve flow. What it craves is consistency.
So even in chaos, if I can give my brain a consistent set of cues, I can train it to focus.
Look at the case study of Michael, the high school teacher from Texas. His reality was grading papers at his kitchen table in the evenings. The environment was loud, family members were walking by, and the television was off and on in the next room. He initially believed deep work was just impossible for him.
But he adapted the architecture to his messy reality instead of waiting for a perfect office.
Exactly. He couldn't control the whole house, so he controlled his immediate sensory inputs. He sat in the exact same chair every single night to build that behavioral association.
Okay.
He used noise-isolating headphones playing instrumental music to override the unpredictable speech from the TV. And he negotiated with his family for just one strict, uninterrupted 25-minute block.
And it worked because the cues were reliable.
Exactly.
I also picked up a brilliant, deeply practical tip from the environmental psychology section for anyone in a shared space. Simply position your chair so you face away from high-traffic doorways or hallways.
Yes. It goes right back to the evolutionary bouncer we talked about. Our peripheral vision is biologically hardwired to detect movement as a potential threat.
Right.
If you are facing a door, every time someone walks by, your brain forces your attention to break and assess the movement. By simply turning your chair around and putting your back to the movement, you save an immense amount of cognitive energy.
So what does this all mean for you listening today? It means we need to completely rewrite the internal narrative we have around focus and distraction.
We really do.
Protecting your attention is not a sign of weakness. It is a critical, essential survival skill in a modern world that is literally engineered to fragment your mind.
Yeah.
We have to stop shaming ourselves for a perceived lack of discipline.
Discipline is not the answer.
Willpower is finite.
Huh.
It is a biological battery that will always run out. But a well-designed environment, even if that environment is just a chair turned away from a door,
Yeah.
a single open tab, and a phone hidden in a drawer, works for you automatically.
That is the ultimate takeaway. You stop relying on discipline and start relying on structure.
Yeah.
And to leave you with something to ponder as you look at your own environment, let's circle back to that concept of attention residue, how your brain holds on to the last thing you looked at.
Okay?
Think about tomorrow morning. What is the very first thing you look at when you open your eyes? For many of us, we reach over to the nightstand and immediately look at a screen full of emails, news alerts, and notifications.
Guilty.
How might that one overwhelming visual cue be secretly designing the architecture of your entire day before your feet even hit the floor?
Definitely something to think about before you reach for the nightstand tomorrow. Thanks for diving deep with us.